Hey guys, it's Matt. Regularly scheduled video topics keep getting pushed back. I was going to do a Not Milk travel tours. I was going to do a proof of Not Milk. I'll definitely still do it in just a few days, but some things need to be said, some things I've been struggling with. This is so obvious, yet I don't know if we've ever really talked about it. So this is going to preempt what I was going to do. I'll get to that stuff in just a few days. Let me jump right to the point, and then I want to talk about it on the back end. And there's a difference between how do men and women go about this differently. See, in our world, there's still a difference. Sorry, can't say much about that. Guys, this thing here, this dark entity, this influence, this not milk, the screen, the asshole dark, etc. That's here to block our spiritual journey. Yeah, blah 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 blah. How many times you gonna say that again, Matt? No, we've said it a lot. We'll say it again in the future, but you know what I mean. It can't. Part two, the work. This is put Wayne's diagram back up, Matt. All of this for us. All of this for us. We have to remember that this thing can't be fought. Okay, this is very hard to accept for me, for most people, especially in the truth community. Let me repeat that. You have to come. This experience is for us. We have to do part two, the work, and accomplish certain things for ourselves. I will say this. I will catch myself saying and knowing it can't be fought. Matt, how many times have I said it wants to be fought? It wants us to gather up the pickup truck army and to pick it. And we're going to get our way, and we're going to. How many? I typically turn this theme into take the Hillary Clintons and the Anthony Wieners off to jail, and then we can all sing and sing kumbaya and hug. And okay, that's how I've presented it. But we really need to get a grip on this. We can't do a lot of the part two, the work, the worry about yourself activities effectively if we don't not just talk. It's one thing I find myself knowing how to talk about it, but then I catch myself, am I actually going through with what I'm saying? Matt, you just made a whole video about this, but it's natural to fall back into the old ways. I have a ton of work to do. This thing cannot be fought. That means, by definition, there is no winning. There's personal winning, but there is no changing of society. There is no one day where we'll take the government back, and with people like Mark Levin and these conservative idiot conservative Republican talk show hosts, radio talk show hosts, and people like Glenn Beck and Mark Levin, and we can do a constitutional convention. And I was sucked into that, of course, for years and years. And from a man's perspective, I don't know. I can't speak for the woman's perspective. Maybe, unfortunately or fortunately. I don't. I'll look to your comments. The woman's comments on how you deal with this is the most important part of the comment section right now, hopefully. But a man, when you see injustice, you see removal of liberties, and over here a modern form of slavery, and you want to fight it. It's just natural. And I'm telling you, if there's any first grade truthers here, this is part of our journey. This thing here is part of the reality system. It's part of the design of it initially. This whole thing is our journey to overcome it. It cannot be fought. Okay, now the second part of that is what we've looked to as in our truth research community. Okay, we kind of realized, we realized pretty early on, anybody that has a clue, that this huge Jabba the Hutt government, how the administrative red tape at every level of government, city, state, local, county, it's just always going to be there. Is it really going to change? How could it ever change? And we can, but see, whether it be that problem with whatever we would want to fix, or the various problems, then at least we figured we could. This is years ago. We're past this, but we need to come to this final realization now to truly do part two of the work. At least we could complain about it, and we could tell our family and friends about it. We could get some consensus with some people that aren't exactly in our group, or somebody that would not watch a channel like this. And that has been denied, denied us. And these are all challenges that are the reality is presented these challenges. Please don't forget for us, and I struggle with this for some reason. This is such a trivial story, but the Not Milk does this sort of thing in a million different areas. I continue to watch. It just fascinates me. I watch the movie reviewers continuously for 10 years straight complain about the ruination and destruction of Star Wars. There may be thousands of videos, no, tens of thousands of videos since The Force Awakens saying, how could Disney be doing this? Why do they keep fighting with the fans? They'll put out absolute shit, then blame the fans that they're sexist or bigots because they don't like the new diversity presentation. It's just the same theme goes on and on and on. And I've thought, why are you watching this, Matt, for so many years, for so long? And I just figured, I don't know, years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, I thought at some point this group would have to not get to the understanding where we are. I don't expect the people around us to jump to our level, but it's so egregious just in this one example because I watch a lot of videos on it, and I shouldn't because those videos are very demoralizing to me because I'm an original fan of Star Wars. I watch just waiting for a few of them to get a little bit of a clue. I watch and I wait for one of them to say, this is proven that these corporations don't need to make money. Something that would just a little bit put one little, you put your big toe to test the water of how cold the pool is. Just if they would put one little toe into our little realm, so say one thing that would satisfy me. Maybe I think that's what I've been waiting for, where one of them should say years ago, well, whether I watch a live stream or whatever it may be, the Critical Drinkers presentation or Nerdrotic or Midnight's Edge or Disparo, they still pop up. And again, like I've said, when I'm eating my Wawa, Italian sub, oil, not mayo, this is the mindless stuff that I watch. But it's not just that. I'm listening, like hoping. This is part two of the work, but it's a personal thing that I need to overcome. And it's a trivial example. But hopefully this example will translate into a lot of different things we need to do for ourselves. I've realized that one of the reasons I'm watching this, I'm just hoping, month after month, year after year, that one of them will say, wait a second, something very strange is going on here. This is proven that this company does not need to make money. So if they don't need to make money, meaning they're putting, for those that are unfamiliar, what's out now is the Alkalite. Before that, Ahsoka. They're so horrible. They're so bad. As I've said, the kids down at the elementary school could have done better. They push their woke themes and their diversity and their race swapping. I mean, if anybody that has a TV that hasn't completely checked out up on a mountaintop knows. I thought, why am I still watching? I'm waiting for one of them to say, and that's a minor thing in terms of coming in to our truth community, saying they don't need to make any money. Because they knew 4 or 5 years ago nobody wants this, yet they keep doing it. If they don't need to make money, how does this whole system work? Maybe Bud Light with Dylan. Maybe they don't need to make money because they wouldn't have made the same mistake. And one of them to say, maybe this whole system is not what it appears to be. I'm waiting for that. And see, I don't realize I'm waiting for that. I'm like, why do I keep watching that? And it really get down in touch with what's happening inside me. That's what I'm really waiting for. And it will never come, in my opinion. Put Wayne's diagram back up. All of this for us. This is part two, the work for us, where we have to get to a point. Maybe it's just turning it all off. I can hear you, Matt, turn that crap off. I hear you. I'm aware that that's a possibility. Turn it off, or what's even better than that is not turn it off. Just continue to watch whatever I find somewhat mindless entertainment enjoyable out of it while I'm chomping down my Wawa sub. What bread you get, Matt? 12-inch. Is it called a classic roll? Classic? Not classic. What's the shorty? Yeah, the classic. It's called the shorty's a shorty. Sorry. Oil, not mayo. On the Italian sub, but I usually actually recently get the chicken. Man, we don't care what you get at Wawa. Chicken salad, chicken. If anybody's, we don't give a shit. Sorry. I'm waiting. It'll never. But here's the personal part to do the work. Stop waiting for it, Matt. Stop. Over here, you'll talk about the reality, and you can explain, pretty thoroughly how it works. But then over here, you don't walk in the walk. I catch myself all the time and go make a video about it, but then here I am doing it. Like, well, okay, well, that's just, to err in this body is blank. I'm not going to say, we are in the body, we have limitations. But again, it gets back to the main premise of this video. It cannot be fought. It cannot be won. Only the personal journey can be won. This is one of the main things that graduates a first, second, third grade truther to the levels or the grades where they could graduate. I watched Bagger Vance again, but I cut the last section out. I'll talk about it in detail some other time. Let me just say a few things about it, and we'll move on and stick with this topic. I was saying it is an incredible spiritual movie. It is not about golf. Bagger Vance is not about golf. I covered it years ago. We'll do a whole video on it again. It's almost like the Will Smith character is his higher self. I find it to be more and more incredible every time I watch it because it is not about golf. But let me wrap that up quickly. In the movie, this is one of the greatest truths of all time, but it's not about golf. It says golf is a game that can only be played, not won. That is the main part of Bagger Vance. And you just take out golf and you insert life. This experience for us, for real souls and spirits. This life, this earth is a game that can only be played, and I'm going to add a few things, experienced and learned from, and it cannot be won. And one of the main things this not milk is evil genius. It dangles at every chance it gets that, you can win in many different areas. If you just, your Tartaria stuff, whatever, if you put a little bit more research in, you can find out what actually happened. If you, if you become a big Mark Levin fan and we can do this constitutional convention where the states can take control back from D.C. We can win. In every area, it dangles winning. And not winning, it never dangles winning for yourself. It never dangles that. That's the only reason we're here, is the part 2, the work. The reason for part 1, seeing through the trick and overcoming the trick, I think for us on our journey, the only reason part 1 exists is to get to see what the adversary is up to, and then to really understand how to do the work and understand what we need to do for ourselves. And at first, when we don't know, we look and see what it wants from us, and then we just simply do the opposite. Our journey, in terms of what we need to do for ourselves, the part 2, the work, needed that part 1. So in a way, we needed to be in the bog, and we needed the endless conspiracy and the endless topics until some of us can't emerge from it and said, this can't happen over and over again. There's too much conspiracy. The conspiracy maps. This is not possible. So what's really going on here? And I can see it wants me here, wants me focused on this. So I'm no longer going to do that. So golf is a game that can only be played, not won. Just against yourself, and in Bagger Vance, you just swap out golf for life. And it tempts you with, if you put more research in, you can find out. And then for this group over here, say the Trumpers or the people that fly, they're different. It does this not just to people in the truth community, it does it to all different types. Dangles that you put Trump back in, you can win. Well, what about the first time he was in? Why didn't you win then? It's okay. It crafts its message to each level of who's playing this game. It is evil genius and in the extreme. But remember the point of this video. It cannot, if you go out, it cannot be fought. It cannot be won. You can't change those outer rings in the concentric rings diagram. Can't change them. It's part of the initial design of this reality system. Cannot change them. You go to try to change them. This is my heart-centered reality bubble. I'll just go one layer out. My local town or city. And then, 2 layers out the state. And then society itself and culture. And then ultimately the not milk on the screen is the last ring. I can change my city council local. No. Maybe if you live in something like The Village, M. Night Shyamalan, The Village, with 100 people or 70 people, okay. But you cannot, if you go outside yourself, try to change the outside world, you've fallen for one of the major not milk tricks. Golf is a game that can only be played, not won. This life is a game that can only be played, learned from, and experienced. Things overcome for yourself. Wayne's diagram. All of this is for us. So it's incredibly demoralizing for people in our truth research community. And many have checked out from me because they don't want to hear this message. They know, Matt, it's incredibly demoralizing to finally come to grips with, no, we can win someday. We can change this government. People will finally wake up, Matt, and they'll see that this isn't the way we should be living. And all the people that watch this Disney Star Wars, go back to that level. Eventually, the fans will be so outraged, and eventually they'll win. And that level is so low, so low, so low. That's not even a Freud. What kind of a slip is that? Where it's not like I'm almost waiting that they could come back, all of a sudden come back with a really interesting and good Star Wars. So that's not the greatest example. I still can't imagine that they're going to keep putting this sludge out, this Disney Star Wars putting this sludge out decade after decade for however long we're going to be alive. I mean, there's something. It's really bothers me because I just can't quite figure it out. It's part of the whole demoralization of what the not milk does in this realm. I mean, maybe there isn't. Always waiting for another shoe to drop. But there's more to figure out why Disney's ruining Star Wars. And then some people in our community would just yell at me and say, Matt, it's not that complicated. One of the main tactics since to an old man, the new century, is just blatant and very simple demoralization. Whatever your hopes and dreams were for a way of living or society or what this country could be, or it destroys everything. If you love the Star Trek franchise, and I can only reflect back when I make these videos what I watch and what I like, guys. Of course, substitute whatever your interests might be. I'm sure it's destroyed everything across the board, and it's just demoralization. And one of the main reasons it plays that game of demoralization is a demoralized real spiritual being. It doesn't really give a shit about doing part two, the work. Doesn't really care anymore about the worry about yourself activities. Doesn't care about overcoming and learning. We just can't ever. I've been close to that several times, somewhat recently actually. I mean, I appear before the camera here as, oh, Matt, he's always even keeled, and no, I have a lot of issues and struggles and problems. I'm fine. I don't just turn the video off and then go weep because there's trolls have popped up again. No, I'm fine. It's just I have struggles that you don't see, of course, and as we all do, guys, we just can't forget the basics. Always return to the basics. If it's one of its main tactics, and if you break it down or whittle it down, its tactics are very rudimentary and very simple when you cut through all the noise. Demoralization. Then we cannot allow ourselves to be demoralized. In terms of winning, it's always winning in terms of us, what it can do to us or what it can do to you. Now, some days you're just going to be, honestly, after the video yesterday, I don't know what happened that kind of led to this video. I had a tough day yesterday, and I just kept saying to myself, why? I had a few things. I had a flood in the house. I mean, this pipe backed up. It could have been really, really, really bad. I got to it. I shut the water off. I mean, it was over. It could have been a disaster. I just happened to be there at the right time, and it was in about an hour. I cleaned it up, and I have some something I've ordered that I think can fix it. So, but that's not gonna. That's not what it. I mean, just things just piled up, and I started to, in a way, feel sorry for myself. And we all go through this, and I wait, and you have to learn. Doing the things we've done and learning what we've learned. Just constantly. Wait a second, I'm not going to let this happen. I can't lie to myself. And on a day, we all have bad days, and that's okay. Be like, I'm so happy, and just lie to yourself. That doesn't work either. But I thought, in terms of what's important, and I just kept focusing on the positive things, and I beat it back a bit, and I thought that's still not very good. I still, in terms of part two, the work, in terms of beating it back, I have a lot of work to do. I can do a lot better. But at least I beat it back some, understanding that even I consider even what I call the flood. It was I have to cycle my water softener down in the basement, and it spits into the sink, and the sink every few years. Well, the backup in the sink was really really bad, and it just overflowed the top. And if I didn't come upon it to shut everything down, it would have been a real disaster. Anyway, we don't need to discuss all those details and some other things got long-winded, guys. We need to get right to the main point here. We're all pretty far advanced truth researchers. There's many graduates here that stick with us. There's not too many first and third and fifth graders here. But in terms of the group that's here, do you believe is there anybody here that believes that we can win in terms of all those outer rings, that goes all the way out to the screen or the knot milk or the asshole dark, that it can be fixed? Or is in any way your job or responsibility to go out and fix it? I mean, do you see how that's just once you get to a certain level, 11th, 12th grade, about to graduate, you see that's part, that's a main part of the trick itself, the temptation. And it will. That's why it loves politics so much. It will to a certain group at least. It'll provide hope through that ridiculous puppet. I mean, Obama's absurd presentation and ridiculous candidacy for puppet was hope and change. Remember? Hoping, and it was yes we can, which is the third grade truthers still. Matt, play that backwards. Do you know it? Oh yeah, I'm that's third grade truth. You can see that now that doesn't really mean anything. Like, who cares? Play it backwards, Matt. Well, yes we.
You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying.
Who cares what it is back? That's all part of the trick. You have to. The graduate truther goes, I don't care what he's saying backwards. That's all to suck you back into the weeds. I mean it, but it really is there. Well, so what? If it's really there, he says, yes, we can, and hope and change, and those blue and red cartoon posters that and then that sucked a certain group in, and incredibly, well, then I was going to say, then you go on to Trump and whatever, but but Matt, in terms of that, in terms of getting a group really excited, who was Biden supposed to excite? Nobody. Absolutely no one. That is a little strange. See, you can understand what it did with Clinton, even Obama, Trump, this whole group over here, so excited that we're going to take the country back. Oh, drain the swamp. Oh my goodness, this is so, let's just have a party now, kumbaya, and sing around the campfire. Who is Biden supposed to excite? Nobody. You think it is a little strange with the knot milk, unless it's pure. The knot milk might be listening to this through its chat GPT translator in real time, saying, well, obviously it's about pure demoralization. Or if I could speak to you through my chat GPT translator, Matt, this is the era of pure demoralization across the board. We've even removed hope and change for you, 2024, poor devils. So it could be that simple. Its presentation, Wayne's diagram and all of the millions of things and things to research and foreign wars and things blowing up here and bridges and container ships. And it's all, in terms of all that complexity, the messages, its tactics. These are the tactics all around us in Wayne's diagram. But the strategies are very simple, once you cut through all the clutter. And again, understanding this is one thing. We all understand what I'm about to say. Most of us here, first grade truthers from Skokie, are still a little confused. But doing it, this is part two, the work. And I'm far from getting it done properly, part two, the work. We all understand these things. It tempts us to go fight it. It tempts us that we can go research it and get answers. It tempts us that we can go out and make changes to it. It's constant demoralization, and in a way, and then a certain level of demoralization, then it will tempt you again with its yellow breadcrumbs. So then you are no longer oh, maybe we'll get a candidate that can help or something. It's just masterful at this. And then once you become over age 45 or 50, You've seen, I'm just saying a regular person, not somebody that's researched what we've researched. You've seen, the hope for a certain candidate or a certain change, and then you've seen it go and go away and go down to nothing, and nothing ever changes. The trajectory of everything is just the same exact straight line. The trajectory of government debt or loss of liberty or surveillance, it's all, and the regular person, that's the real person, really, I think, gets demoralized. Remember, again, I said in the last video, Inara says she believes 3% here are real. We don't know, but maybe it's 10% real. I said before, Tony believed in the NPC. How many are of a certain type of entity like us with a spiritual connection out of here? We don't know the percentage, but the point here is, of that group, how many are like kind of doing what we're doing, or researching the trick, or trying to see through the trick, and then eventually going on to part two? Very, very, very few. If Inara thinks 3% here are real, then only 5% of that 3% are seeing through the trick, or kind of doing the things that we're doing. About 95% of real people, whatever that number is, are working in a corporate tower for ExxonMobil, or are they do grassroots movements for Al the Boar, thinking that his ice cubes are causing these. They're completely in the middle of the trick. So, at least to the few real people that may be here, and I don't know. What's your take on it, Matt? Let me complete that thought, because I do this a lot. I end a thought and I don't finish. They must really be demoralized. How many of are real people, because they see the cycles, nothing ever goes. At least we're understanding, and I don't think we've come to these conclusions just to make ourselves feel better, that it shouldn't affect us, or I shouldn't have had the day I had yesterday, if I truly believe it's all for us. We came, Tony said, if you remember one thing, remember this. If you remember one thing, only one thing, you existed per higher self before you came in here. Every bit of you agreed to be here. Someone like Josh, who's suffering and probably won't buy that. We've talked about that. I do believe that. We agreed to be here. Some go as far as saying, some different types of people that I've been in contact with, a lot of people, a lot of different people, a lot of different abilities over a long time. Some say we've chosen our life path. Our parents have been chosen, which both parents could be NPC types. They don't, just because they're parents, they don't mean they're real. That's possible. But my thought is, I don't know. I don't go into the weeds in this. I simply have said, I'm convinced there are different types of entities here. I am absolutely convinced of that. How many are the organic portal, or the NPC, or the background characters, the Dolores Cannon background characters? How many are the minions? How many are the sequential incarnations that Tony talked? I don't know. I'll never know, and I don't care to put out a number. All I need to do is say there's different types here. And that also is the best news of all time, because again, like the farther you get away from the physical explanations, the Big Bang, Stephen Hawking, Monkey Man, Marmot, we came from this, Darwin. The further you move away, that this is not a physical experience as much as a spiritual experience, then it becomes the greatest news of all time. And it's just a train stop. We move on after this, but. In terms of the no consequences people, the consequence here, if one exists, is only one thing. We simply don't do what we're supposed to do, or enough of what we're supposed to do, which could be a repetition, like I've said a lot recently. Not a reincarnation as it's described, but the higher self saying, we need to keep doing this. Matt, he'll say, Matt, you little son of a beach, from the Philadelphia area, higher self. You gonna fight with your higher self? You've never done it in this. We should, sit down here, you poor devil. You got close. You researched your 7-Eleven job applications. I'm higher self talking. Higher self looking down at me. You have no right to speak for me, little Matt. I'm gonna speak for you. Shut up. You put me here. Shut up, Matt. You're losing it. He says, you were close. You saw through the 7-Eleven job application. You saw through the trick. But then you didn't do what we really needed you to do down there outside Philadelphia. Maybe you just went, you got your hoagies and shit. And then you just think, let's fight it. Let's do the Constitutional Convention. You just listened to your Mark Levin, and then you got excited for the next candidate. And you said, oh, Trump's going to do something this time. Then you researched your Tartaria, and you didn't do that. You think a higher self still talking to me. You think I give one horse shit about Tartaria, whatever that not milk's floating out? You should have walked away from that years ago, you poor devils. Yeah, sorry, from Clueless. My bad. What's the consequence? Well, I got to keep putting little bastards like you back in a material plane reality system. So get. So that's the downside. Tony said the higher self, it needs certain things, and all its little parts like you are essential to give it what it needs, or the experience it needs, or even the learning it needs. As all powerful as this spiritual aspect of us is, as Tony described it, it needs the little parts of itself. And also said, don't think of you as some little, what did Don Johnson say in Django, some little Peckerwood boy that does the glass. You're not some little Peckerwood boy down here. He said, you're it. You're the higher self. You're just as powerful. You're it. It is you. Could be again, I've said the truth job from 16 Candles. Jake, this is a Rolls Royce. I thought you said you couldn't drive a stick. He's carrying Carolyn. And he says, she wakes up. Who are you? I'm him. Who's he? He's me. Have fun. Who are you? I'm higher. You don't really think it's a higher self truth drop? No, I don't. But to us it could be. I'm it. Higher self. Tony said, it's you. You're not some little fingernail it doesn't care about. It's all one. The dream character, is that you? Well, in a way, yes, it's you, but it's a completely different iteration. Anyway, so you have to give it what it needs, and there's so much of a difference between me knowing exactly what we all should be doing, and as you do as well. I mean, again, I just tell you things you already know, and people, the old guard comes here because sometimes it's a little bit entertaining, and I can explain it in a way that makes sense, and that's my abilities to explain things in a way that kind of makes sense. I'm not telling most people here anything new, or if anybody is new, I'm just waking you up to what you already know. So it's easy. It's for me, the struggle is that for my own personal part to the work. I can come here and tell you all about the not milk, what it wants from us, how it works, and then just an hour later start falling into one of its traps. Not that I'm going to go out and start the mud flood playlists. I'm not a new mud flood playlist. Start it up. I'm not doing that. But I'll start. I'll think. I'll fall in its trap and say, well, or mostly emotionally, like getting demoralized and having certain things affect me. Or if you truly believe this is just a little tiny train stop, all of this for us, come in, go out, we're thousands and millions of times larger than this place. I mean, on paper, nothing should bother us, ever. Nothing. Even Josh's situation, where he's a very difficult physical situation. If you truly understood this is one millionth of 1 millionth of 1 millionth of 1 millionth, one little blink sliced and diced into a trillion little tiniest thing you can imagine over the course of essentially what we're attached to or part of, all of existence. It's nothing, no matter how bad your life is. That's easy for you to say, Matt, up there in Pennsylvania. You dumbasses from Philadelphia say Pennsylvania. We do. We say, and somebody reminded me, say, you don't say, I have to, whoever sent me that comment, I enunciate things because people won't understand. King of Prussia. They don't understand it. So I say, I went to Upper Merion High School in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. That's a strange named town. But yeah, I want to, normally if I was with my boys in a few, Miller Genuine Drafts or whatever, I'd be like, yeah, King of Prussia. It's King A.H. all smushed together with Prussia. We grew up King of, other people from Philly, we grew up King of Prussia. That's, what was Winslet, Kate Winslet, tried to do the Philadelphia accent, and the mayor of Easttown, she's this, British trained actress. For some reason, she probably found it, and it is one of the hardest accents to do. The outskirts or certain parts of Philadelphia, the difference between Kensington and the great Northeast and Allentown and up in that region. Central Jersey has was a really strange accent that I don't even think I can do. So Kate Winslet must have been like, she must have needed that paycheck. She's like, how the heck? And she does okay. She got trashed by Saturday Night Live and others, but Saturday Night Live, she's a Matt. You're not going to talk about just one more minute on the. I watched 2 episodes of The Mayor of Easttown. The whole purpose of the HBO series was to demoralize and just to make people literally that watch it want to just throw themselves off a bridge. But Saturday Night Live, she's an investigator of some kind. I forget. I watched 2 episodes. It wasn't good. I watched it because of the accent and how she was trying to do the Philadelphia accent. They said he murdered your daughter in some investigation, and in Saturday Night Live made fun of Kate trying to do the accent. He murdered your daughter. He murdered your, and that's not even the way it sounds either. But I understand what they were trying to do. Anyway, guys. So look, let's go back to the absolute basics. We have to remember this. It cannot be fought. First grade truther, one of the main things that does not allow them to graduate up. It's not just going back in the weeds and more Tartaria research and more research on this breadcrumb and this yellow breadcrumb and sniff the breadcrumb. It's not that. It's the what keeps somebody, let's just say, up into a 5th grade truther. The main thing that keeps them in that category is the thought that they will win. And it absolutely comes into, if anybody's screaming at me, I can hear you. Splat turf. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to those researchers on the shape of everything. If I say it, I'll get a banner ad directing all of us for the real truth to Britannica or something like that. So I have to say splat turf. Real GPT communicating this message in transcript to not know. Splat turf. One of the main reasons many of them got into that, I can't speak for them, I've never been part of that group, but I've heard this communicated many times, is if we can convince, so see, they generally see the trick of everything the way we do in many areas. I don't think they'd go out and vote, or they think they see through the political, they see a lot of truth, the splat turfers. They said, this is where we can win. I've heard many of them talk like this. If this evidence is undeniable, and it is, but the reality generation machine shows evidence to both sides at the same time that's in conflict with each other. So if we can just this is where we have the big win, Matt. The evidence is now undeniable. The people have done their little laser level tests across the lake so many different times that we can then show this to our brother, and obviously everybody that goes through this truth stuff at some point falls in the trap that we will have enough solid evidence to show somebody. That is, of course, part of part 2 of the work. And get over that. It's not ever going to happen. Well, Matt, I woke somebody up. Well, then they were ready to be woke. It will never happen en masse for most of your family. We know that. So, but that was the splat turfers not trying to be disrespectful. I appreciate everything they've did, and I watched all those videos. Very interesting. And I'll present my final conclusion on that in just a minute, but this is we can then use this as a catalyst for change, and their whole facade of how everything works will break down once this is known. And of course it's never going to happen. It's just another false promise of the way this realm is designed from its initial design. There is no winning in this regard. To try to keep winning, obviously I was going to say it again, repeating a thing don't improve it. I'm very repetitive on that. My take is on, as you know, guys, we'll just finish with this on splat turf, not trying to be disrespectful. It's very clear, to me at least, and I think a lot of the old guard agrees, that this reality generation machine, conspiracy generation machine, whatever this thing we're in that's not very real, where Tony talked about, you have this reality game board like the natural world, but whatever we call not milk is it's spread itself out. This whole world is breaking down. It's becoming more fluid, more of a reality that's just unpredictable and doesn't make it. So it's just going to get stranger for us. But the point is, even when it seems somewhat legitimate, I don't know, for me, 6 or 7 years ago, maybe. I thought, we're starting to come into the notion that this no real world could do that, or no real world could do this. Or, and one of the things that pushed me over the top was really incredible evidence that it's flat. Okay, incredible evidence, all these things, all these tests, but then the equal evidence exists that it's the other. And there's no way a real world could show both evidence that's in conflict with each other at the same time to two different groups, so those groups take away what they need to take away. And if somebody's yelling at me, I can hear you. These nuances or these details don't matter. Someone say, "Well, Matt, this group manifested the evidence that they wanted." Yeah, okay, maybe they did. We'll talk about that some other time. That's not the point here. It's not the reality giving it to them. They're manifesting as creative beings what they expect the splat turf, and they get that back from it. The reality is a reflection or mirror of what they expect and want and desire. They're the generator beings. Yeah. I know. I mean, that's part of how this reality works. It doesn't really matter how it works. But it's really funny how the splat turfers, they dig in, and some of them, I've said this before, but this is just the funniest thing of all time to me. They will say, and again, to me, it's both at the same time. What's your answer, Matt? What's your shape, Matt? Well, I've been very clear on this. There is none. There's it's here we go. This is one of the premises of this presentation. If you go to find the answer, you're being sucked into its weeds. It's exactly what it wants. It's both at the same time. It's neither. Well, certainly if you flew up there far enough, you could see. No, you couldn't, and nobody would be able to do it anyway. All right, some weird closed system with, like the Truman Show, lights labeled Sirius A and B stuck to the ceiling. I don't know. But it's both at the same time. I think, once again, best news of all time, no real world could do that. But the splat turfers say that this group, the spherical group, or the traditional group on Globe, or scientists, or NASA, that this group, the splat turfers, say they have no evidence. They have nothing. They have nothing. Well, just because nobody's gone up there and flown around, it doesn't mean they don't have nothing. I've done this so many times in the past, guys. I'll be brief. You're rolling your eyes. You're not going to do this again. The math, the way Venus behaves by itself, in terms of only being able to be seen in the morning, very early morning, or in dusk, never in the middle of the night. The way Venus behaves, is a perfect, it's almost overwhelming evidence of the NASA model of the universe. But the splat turfers have incredible evidence too. It's both at the same time. There is no winning on either side. But don't say that NASA has nothing, or that scientists starting with Galileo have nothing. I mean, that is just every bit of math to the 100th decimal is perfect on the globe model and the heliocentric model. The math is perfect. Where seemed like a nice guy. Was his last name Kenny or something like that? Seemed like a nice guy. Haven't seen him pop up. Maybe that's because YouTube doesn't show me his Martin Kenny, was it? I wish him well. I haven't seen or heard from him in years. I never knew him, but I watched his stuff. They have the way they explain retrograde is little. They have the little loop-de-loops. The planet go loop-de-loop, planet go loop-de-loop, planet go loop. There's no way to explain retrograde except little loop-de-loop. Okay, well, it's possible, but that. Please don't. If there's a few splat turf stragglers here that grew up, that was your area or your segment in coming into truth. Please don't say there's no evidence on the other side. I mean, come on. And I'm not trying to defend the other side. Again, so my words will be taken out of context. It's both at the same time, with the ultimate conclusion being it's neither. It's both and neither. And the real conclusion is it's a waste of time to do any research, because it's not a real world. I knew a guy, like I've said many times, his thing when he was alive was hollow earth, was into Dyson spheres, and things could live on the inside, had mountains and mountains of information about that. This reality will give you anything you really are passionate about, especially if you're a real generator being, spiritual being. Maybe the NPCs can't get this back from reality, but we can. You're passionate about, but up into a degree. Well, I'm going to go research, Matt, that the Earth is actually that turtle that comes from the ancient legend and lore. But you're not really going to. If you really believe that, I think it would show you evidence that it's the back of the turtle. But are you really going to believe? You can't fake it. They can see right through your fake it. You can't fake it to make it in this regard. You have to truly be passionate about researching one of these ridiculous conspiracy topics as a generative being, and the reality will give it back to you, because that's what reality does to people like us. So, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I will definitely do the. I'm not going to say where the Not Milk travel tours will be. The other video, proof of not milk. That is, that's. But this had to be said. Cannot fight it. If you want to go fight the outer rings, you will never graduate past 5th grade. As bad as it gets, it's all here for us. I believe that, and I'm not just saying that to make myself feel better. Thanks for listening.